Of Grammatology is a book written by the French philosopher and literary theorist Jacques Derrida. The original French title is De la Grammatologie, and it was first published in 1967. Derrida is considered one of the key figures in the post-structuralist movement, and Of Grammatology is one of his most influential works. In this book, Derrida challenges traditional Western philosophy and linguistics, particularly the structuralist ideas of Ferdinand de Saussure. Derrida explores the relationship between speech and writing, arguing that writing has been historically marginalized in favor of speech. He introduces the concept of logocentrism, which refers to the privileging of speech over writing in Western thought. Derrida also introduces the term deconstruction in this work, which has become a central concept in his philosophy. Deconstruction involves analyzing and questioning the assumptions and hierarchies present in language, literature, and philosophy. It seeks to reveal the inherent contradictions and complexities within texts and discourses. Of Grammatology is a challenging and complex text, and its impact extends beyond philosophy to influence literary theory, cultural studies, and various other disciplines. Derrida's ideas have had a profound impact on the way scholars approach language, meaning, and interpretation. Introduction. Derrida begins by challenging the traditional opposition between speech and writing. He argues that writing has been historically subordinated to speech in Western thought. Logocentrism. Derrida introduces the concept of logocentrism, which refers to the prioritization of speech over writing. He argues that Western philosophy has been centered around the idea of logos, meaning, speech, reason, leading to a bias against writing. Phonocentrism. Derrida critiques phonocentrism, the belief that spoken language is more natural and authentic than written language. He questions the privileging of speech and challenges the assumption that writing is a mere representation of spoken words. Archie-writing. Derrida introduces the term archie-writing to describe the originary, non-present, and non-representational nature of writing. He suggests that writing is not a secondary representation of speech but is integral to language itself. Difference. Derrida plays with the term difference, a word he coined to convey the dual sense of difference and deferral. He explores how meaning is deferred and delayed in language, disrupting the idea of stable and fixed meanings. Binary oppositions. Derrida deconstructs binary oppositions that structure Western thought, such as presence-absence, speech-writing, and nature-culture. He shows how these oppositions are interdependent and mutually constitutive. Deconstruction. Derrida introduces the concept of deconstruction, a method of analysis that seeks to expose and destabilize the hidden hierarchies and contradictions within texts. Deconstruction involves examining the ways in which language undermines its own supposed stability. Metaphysics of presence. Derrida critiques the metaphysics of presence, the idea that meaning is fully present and transparent in spoken language. He argues that this metaphysics has influenced Western philosophy from Plato to structuralism. Trace and supplement. Derrida explores the concepts of trace and supplement, emphasizing the non-fullness and non-self-identity of meaning. He challenges the notion that language can fully represent an original presence. Conclusion. Derrida concludes by suggesting that his work opens up new possibilities for understanding language and philosophy. He encourages a more nuanced and self-aware approach to language that acknowledges its complexities. Keep in mind that Of Grammatology is a highly nuanced and challenging text, and different interpretations may arise. This overview provides a broad sense of the major themes and concepts in the book. Of Grammatology, by Jacques Derrida is a groundbreaking work in which the author challenges traditional Western notions of language and meaning. Derrida critiques the hierarchy between speech and writing, introducing concepts like logocentrism and phonocentrism to argue that writing is not merely a derivative of speech but an integral part of language itself. He coins the term difference to highlight the dual aspects of difference and deferral in language, deconstructs binary oppositions, and introduces the method of deconstruction to reveal hidden contradictions in texts. Derrida's work undermines the metaphysics of presence and questions the idea that language can fully represent an original reality. Overall, Of Grammatology has had a profound impact on literary theory, cultural studies, and philosophy, influencing scholars to reevaluate the nature of language and interpretation. Of Grammatology addresses several themes, and each theme is interwoven with Derrida's intricate arguments and concepts. Here are some key themes along with examples. Logocentrism. Definition. the belief in the supremacy of speech logos over writing. Example: Derrida challenges logocentrism by arguing that writing is not a mere copy or representation of speech but has its own significance and plays an essential role in the structure of language. Phonocentrism. Definition: the privileging of spoken language over written language. Example: Derrida questions the assumption that speech is more natural or authentic than writing, challenging the bias against writing inherent in phonocentrism. Difference. Definition: the dual sense of difference and deferral in language. Example: Derrida plays with the word difference to highlight how meaning is both deferred, delayed, and differentiated in language, disrupting the idea of fixed and stable meanings. Deconstruction. Definition: a method of analysis that reveals and challenges hidden hierarchies and contradictions within texts. Example: in deconstructing binary oppositions like presence-absence, Derrida shows how these concepts are interdependent and mutually constitutive, rather than being clear-cut opposites. Binary oppositions. Definition: pairs of opposites that structure thought, like inside-outside, nature-culture, speech-writing. Example: Derrida deconstructs binary oppositions, revealing how terms within these pairs rely on each other for meaning, and their boundaries are blurred. Metaphysics of presence. Definition: the belief that meaning is fully present and transparent in spoken language. Example: Derrida challenges the metaphysics of presence by showing how language, even in speech, involves a process of deferral and absence, undermining the idea of immediate and transparent meaning. Trace and supplement. Definition: concepts emphasizing the non-fullness and non-self identity of meaning. Example: Derrida explores how traces, hints or remnants, and supplements, additional elements, disrupt the notion that language can fully represent an original, stable presence. These themes collectively contribute to Derrida's overarching critique of traditional Western philosophy and linguistics, offering a new perspective on the nature of language and meaning. Of Grammatology serves as a foundational text for the post-structuralist movement and has influenced a wide range of disciplines. Analyzing of Grammatology involves delving into Jacques Derrida's intricate arguments and examining the implications of his ideas. Here are key points for analysis. Challenging traditional hierarchies. Derrida challenges traditional hierarchies between speech and writing, presence and absence, and other binary oppositions. Analyze how this challenge disrupts established structures of thought and impacts our understanding of language and meaning. Deconstruction as a method. Explore Derrida's method of deconstruction. How does he apply it to traditional texts and philosophical concepts? Analyze specific examples of deconstruction within the book and consider how this method prompts a re-evaluation of the ideas presented. Difference and temporality. Examine Derrida's concept of difference and its implications for temporality in language. How does the idea of deferral affect our understanding of time and meaning? Consider how this concept challenges notions of fixed meanings and immediate presence. Language as a system. Analyze Derrida's view of language as a complex system. How does he conceptualize the relationship between signs, meaning, and the structures of language? Consider the implications for linguistic theory and the understanding of communication. Implications for philosophy. Investigate how Derrida's critique of logocentrism and metaphysics of presence influences traditional Western philosophy. Analyze the impact on foundational philosophical concepts, such as truth, identity, and representation. Philosophy of writing. Explore Derrida's philosophy of writing as archy-writing. How does he redefine the nature and role of writing in the construction of meaning? Consider the implications for literature, philosophy, and cultural studies. Relevance to other disciplines. Assess the impact of grammatology on other disciplines, such as literary theory, cultural studies, and post-structuralist thought. How have Derrida's ideas influenced the way scholars approach language, texts, and interpretation? Critiques and responses. Analyze critiques and responses to Derrida's work. Consider how other scholars engage with his ideas and whether there are valid challenges to his philosophy. Assess the ongoing influence of grammatology within academia. Contextualizing Derrida's work. Place Derrida's work in its historical and intellectual context. Consider the philosophical movements and thinkers that influenced him, and explore how his ideas have shaped subsequent intellectual developments. Analyzing grammatology requires careful consideration of its philosophical underpinnings, methodological innovations, and broader implications for various disciplines. It's also essential to engage with critiques and ongoing debates surrounding Derrida's work to gain a comprehensive understanding of grammatology, introduces several key features and concepts that are fundamental to Jacques Derrida's philosophy. Here are some of the main features and concepts. Logocentrism. Definition: the belief in the superiority of speech logos over writing. Significance: Derrida challenges the hierarchical privileging of speech, arguing that writing is not a derivative or secondary form of language but an essential and complex part of it. Phonocentrism. Definition: the prioritization of spoken language over written language. Significance: Derrida questions the assumption that speech is more natural or authentic than writing, challenging the bias against writing inherent in phonocentrism. Difference. Definition: a term combining difference and deferral, highlighting the dual nature of meaning in language. Significance: Derrida introduces difference to show that meaning is not immediately present or fixed but involves a constant play between difference and deferral. Deconstruction. Definition: a method of critical analysis that reveals and undermines hidden hierarchies and contradictions in texts and concepts. Significance: deconstruction challenges binary oppositions and questions the stability of meaning, emphasizing the fluid and interdependent nature of language. Binary oppositions. Definition: pairs of opposites that structure thought, such as presence-absence, speech-writing, and nature-culture. Significance: Derrida deconstructs binary oppositions to reveal their mutual dependence, blurring boundaries and challenging the clear distinctions between terms. Metaphysics of presence. Definition: the belief that meaning is fully present and transparent in spoken language. Significance: Derrida critiques the metaphysics of presence by showing how language, even in speech, involves a process of deferral and absence, undermining the idea of immediate and transparent meaning. Archie-writing. Definition: the originary, non-present, and non-representational nature of writing. Significance: Derrida argues that writing is not a secondary representation of speech but is fundamental to the structure of language, challenging traditional views that prioritize speech. Trace and supplement. Definition: concepts emphasizing the non-fullness and non-self identity of meaning. Significance: Derrida explores how traces, hints or remnants, and supplements additional elements disrupt the notion that language can fully represent an original, stable presence. These features and concepts collectively contribute to Derrida's critique of traditional Western philosophy and linguistics, offering a new perspective on the nature of language, meaning, and interpretation. They form the basis for the method of deconstruction and have had a profound impact on literary theory, cultural studies, and philosophy. Examining the significance of the features and concepts introduced in Of Grammatology involves understanding their impact on philosophy, linguistics, and various intellectual disciplines. Here's an examination of the significance of these concepts. Challenging logocentrism and phonocentrism. Significance: Derrida's challenge to logocentrism and phonocentrism disrupts the traditional hierarchy between speech and writing, forcing a re-evaluation of the assumed primacy of spoken language. This shift has far-reaching implications for how we understand the nature of language, communication, and representation. Difference and temporality. Significance: introducing the concept of difference highlights the temporal dimension of language, emphasizing the dynamic and deferred nature of meaning. This challenges the idea of fixed and immediate meanings, impacting our understanding of time, representation, and interpretation. Deconstruction as a method. Significance: the method of deconstruction becomes a powerful tool for analyzing texts and concepts. By exposing hidden contradictions and hierarchies, deconstruction encourages a more nuanced and self-aware approach to language and philosophy, opening up new avenues for interpretation. Disrupting binary oppositions. Significance: Derrida's deconstruction of binary oppositions challenges the notion of clear-cut distinctions between opposing concepts. This has implications for how we think about identity, meaning, and the structures that underpin various philosophical and cultural systems. Metaphysics of presence. Significance: Derrida's critique of the metaphysics of presence undermines the idea that meaning can be fully present and transparent in language. This challenges foundational concepts in philosophy, such as truth and representation, and prompts a re-evaluation of our assumptions about language. Archie-writing and the role of writing. Significance: Derrida's concept of archie-writing reconceptualizes the role of writing as essential to the structure of language. This challenges the marginalization of writing and has implications for how we understand literature, communication, and the construction of meaning. Trace and supplement. Significance. The concepts of trace and supplement disrupt the notion of stable and self-identical meanings. This challenges the idea that language can fully represent an original presence, prompting a more complex understanding of linguistic signification. Interdisciplinary impact. Significance. Derrida's ideas have transcended traditional disciplinary boundaries, influencing fields such as literary theory, cultural studies, philosophy, and linguistics. The concepts introduced in Of Grammatology have inspired diverse intellectual movements and continue to shape contemporary thought. In summary, the significance of the concepts in Of Grammatology lies in their transformative impact on our understanding of language, meaning, and interpretation. Derrida's work has spurred a re-examination of foundational assumptions in various disciplines and has contributed to the development of new approaches to textual analysis and philosophical inquiry. Of Grammatology French, De la Grammatologie is a 1967 book by the French philosopher Jacques Derrida. The book, originating the idea of deconstruction, proposes that throughout continental philosophy, especially as philosophers engaged with linguistic and semiotic ideas, writing has been erroneously considered as derivative from speech, making it a fall from the real, full presence of speech in the independent act of writing. Jacques Derrida, French, Acte Dida, born Jacques Derrida, 15th of July 1930 to the 9th of October 2004, was an Algerian-born French philosopher. He developed the philosophy of deconstruction, which he utilized in a number of his texts, and which was developed through close readings of the linguistics of Ferdinand de Saussure and Husserlian and Heideggerian phenomenology. 7, 8, 9 He is one of the major figures associated with post-structuralism and postmodern philosophy. 10, 11, 12 Although he distanced himself from post-structuralism and disowned the word postmodernity. 13. During his career, Derrida published more than 40 books, together with hundreds of essays and public presentations. He had a significant influence on the humanities and social sciences, including philosophy, literature, law, 14, 15, 16 anthropology, 17 historiography, 18 applied linguistics, 19 sociolinguistics, 20 psychoanalysis, 21 music, architecture, and political theory. Into the 2000s, his work retained major academic influence throughout the United States, 22 continental Europe, South America and all other countries where continental philosophy has been predominant, particularly in debates around ontology, epistemology especially concerning social sciences, ethics, aesthetics, hermeneutics, and the philosophy of language. In most of the Anglosphere, where analytic philosophy is dominant, Derrida's influence is most presently felt in literary studies due to his long-standing interest in language and his association with prominent literary critics from his time at Yale. He also influenced architecture in the form of deconstructivism, music 23, especially in the musical atmosphere of hauntology, art 24, and art criticism 25. Particularly in his later writings, Derrida addressed ethical and political themes in his work. Some critics consider Speech and Phenomena 1967 to be his most important work. Others cite Of Grammatology 1967, Writing and Difference 1967, and Margins of Philosophy 1972. These writings influenced various activists and political movements. 26 He became a well-known and influential public figure, while his approach to philosophy and the notorious abstruseness of his work made him controversial. 26-27. Summary. Edit. In Of Grammatology, Derrida discusses writers such as Claude Lévi-Strauss, Ferdinand de Saussure, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Étienne Condillac, Louis Hjelmslev, Emile Benveniste, Martin Heidegger, Edmund Husserl, Roman Jakobson, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, André Leroy Gourhan, and William Warburton. In the course of the work he deconstructs the philosophies of language and the act of writing given by these authors, identifying what he calls phonocentrism, and showing the myriad aporias and ellipses to which this leads them. Derrida avoids describing what he is theorizing as a critique of the work of these thinkers, but he nevertheless calls for a new science of grammatology that would explore the questions that he raises about how to theorize the act of writing. 2. Of Grammatology introduced many of the concepts which Derrida would employ in later work, especially in relation to linguistics and writing.